Hi guys, it's Lily, and today I wanted to talk about an issue which I think is sort of close to the heart of many of us in the planner community. The question of why use multiple planners, or whether it's a good idea to use multiple planners or not, and how you might go about doing that. So for a long time, as in, I don't know, maybe like 15, 17, 18 years, I just used one planner. So I always had a paper planner, but I didn't really think about it that much. It was just like a completely functional thing, and it never would have occurred to me to have more than one. So it was really only when I, kind of discovered the YouTube planner community and got into sort of planning as a hobby that I actually started to consider the idea of having more than one planner. And it really started off just, basically, I found out about Hobonichis, and at the time I was using a Moleskine diary. And I saw a few videos about the Hobonichi, and I actually stumbled upon them because I was looking for videos of Filofax flexes, because I got a Filofax flex which I was keeping my Moleskine in, and so I wanted to see what people were doing with their flexes, and I found some people who were putting Hobonichis in a flex cover, and that was where I first found out about the concept of the Hobonichi, and something about it intrigued me. I liked like the thin paper, the grid, the grid paper, just the way that it was set up, like the cousin, the fact that it had daily, monthly, weekly, and I'd never had a planner like that. So obviously I was already interested in planners by that point, and I was really curious about it, sort of like more than I had been about, so like ring planners never really grabbed me. James had a ring planner and I just wasn't into that. So I was watching these Hobonichi videos and I was like, I would really, really like to see one of those in person. And at the time, because it was January, I'd already just set up my Moleskine for the year, and I was kind of in the mindset of like, well, this is my planner for the year. Obviously, I can't replace it until next year. I thought, I kind of think that a Hobonichi would actually work better for me than this one because it's got the extra space, and I was using it primarily, the Moleskine, primarily as a work planner. So I thought, well, I can't really switch now, but I would like to try this and not have to wait a year. So I was thinking, what could I use it for? Could I use it for something else? And I had seen a few videos of people who had different planners for different things, but it kind of took me a while. James and I were both thinking, like, what could we use it for? And so finally we came up with the idea that we could use it as like a sort of communal planner, and I could put my work schedule in, and he could put in the days when he was going to be in the market, because he does shifts at a craft market. And that might be useful. So that was how I ordered the Hobonichi. And obviously from there it was a slippery slope, and because then I was watching more videos and kind of found out about more different types of planners, and I really liked the Hobonichi, so for a while I was just using that, and that worked great. As it turned out, I ended up using one as a work planner, as my only planner at that point. And then if you've seen my other videos over the past 6 months, you'll know what happened then. I sort of wanted to try out other planners, and so I ended up with like quite a few ringed planners as well, and I was trying to think of different uses, and so I got to a point where I think I had too many different things, and fortunately One Book July came along, because that kind of helped me to like weed out what was really useful and what was just confusing. Because I think, sort of I went from one extreme to the other, like having one planner, and, from having one planner to having lots of different planners. But I think now I found a kind of happy medium, which works for me anyway. I think it would be different for different people, but I think that if you haven't noticed by now, this is kind of a chatty sort of video, but I will be showing my different planners, so don't worry. But I think that it can be very helpful to have different planners. And I think that, I guess it depends on the way that your mind works and the way that your life is organized. But like an example is, I have a work email account, and then I have a personal email account. And I've always had that. I mean, it's like since I was a student, I guess since I started teaching, while I was still a PhD student, I kept my work email separate from my personal emails. And I think that division somehow has always come very naturally to me. So like I would kind of freak out if I opened my work email and I saw like emails about my Happy Scrappy subscription and vet appointments and things like that. It just like, I don't like the idea of it. It makes me feel uncomfortable and like kind of overwhelmed, and I wouldn't know what to expect when I open my email. Whereas having two different email accounts, I know when I open my work email, I'm expecting to see work things, and I check it all the time because there's like always stuff going on with work. Whereas my personal email account, I kind of know the types of things that it's going to be, and it's like kind of not as urgent, so it doesn't matter if I don't check it, occasionally, like for a day or two. And I, know that like if I'm looking for, like, say, my Hobonichi order to be posted, that's where I'll go. And so that division really works well for me, and I just wouldn't like the idea of having them combined. So it's the same idea, I think. So after I started experimenting with multiple planners, I discovered that it was I didn't like having personal things in my work planner. So this is my work planner. And because I, spend most of my time working, it's sort of, I think in academia generally, it's very difficult to kind of put borders on work time, partly because often we don't have fixed hours, so we end up working a lot at home, and because you're working on different projects, it's not like, it's very difficult to say like, okay, I've stopped working now. So I guess there is some kind of overlap, because also I enjoy it. So, I read language books for fun, and then I also write language textbooks. So there is some kind of relationship between work and personal, but essentially I like knowing that in this planner, this is all things that are just work related. So, and I also like kind of not decorating it, because this is just like purely functional. This is the one that like my work email, I need to check this all the time. This is where most, like 90% of what's going on in my life happens. And so I feel like it's very comforting knowing that if I open this, I will just see work-related things, and like that's what it's for. So if I have something like, say, a dentist appointment, my dentist actually happens to be based at my university, so there's some kind of overlap, because it's like a sort of like staff and student dentist center. So I would put appointments in here if I had that. So there's some kind of overlap, so that, like, see if we go to the monthly view. So like here is, I'm not sure if you can see that, this is not really very focused, but this is a like dentist appointment, and obviously it's useful to know that, because if I had some other work related thing, I would need to schedule it around that. So this is really my main planner. Like I put all of my obviously all of my work related things, and then other sort of like appointments, which I don't have that many of, but if there's somewhere that I have to be, obviously it's useful to have it in here. And I just think that works really well, like knowing that if I, just like when I go to my work email account, that my work emails will be there, that when I open this planner, that all work things will be here. And so I found it kind of overwhelming. Like say I went to this page, this was last week, and on my like kind of to-do list over here, I had like, I don't know, film, video, and go to Paper Chase to buy planner supplies. And like, these are some things we need from the shop. I did do that when I used to just have one planner. And so obviously like it can be done, but I find it somehow much more calming. And it works better for me to have those things separate, so that I think because somehow in my head, I like having a division between work and personal, that, that's kind of how my life is set up in other ways. And also it can get a bit crowded as well. Like if you have a lot going on in one area of your life. So like, I don't know how well you can see, this is actually not a particularly busy week in terms of like appointments and things. But like say when I was teaching, I could have like say something like that where this is without personal stuff. So if I added in like personal stuff, then I would feel like it would get too crowded. I would like to have them somehow divided, and it can be difficult to divide them on the page. And I know that of course it can be done, but I use this timeline, so I would want the whole timeline to be there, and then there's not a huge amount of space left over, because I use the daily pages for work-related notes, of which I have a lot. So yeah, I think that works really well, that division, because then if we go over to my personal planner, that's this one, you can kind of see the comparative size of sort of what's going on. in my life, as in this is work, it's A5 size, and this is personal, it's pocket size. So it's like, yeah, not a great work-life balance, but never mind. So in the personal planner, I have things like, first of all, I have like all of my YouTube stuff. So like upcoming videos, video notes, kind of thoughts about planners. So like these are options for my Hobonichis, which are about to arrive, like things that I'm thinking of using them for. And then like sort of like other things to buy. A reference section for like personal things, so like, you know, bank details and stuff that's not work related, but that I would like to be able to have when I'm out. And just kind of like random notes, you know, gratitude. And then for planning, so this is stuff like if someone is coming to visit, buy tape runner, cinema, email people, like email paper crafting studio, for example, exercise, stuff that like really doesn't have a place in my work planner that I would feel uncomfortable having mixed in, and so it's nice having it in here because I just go here, and this is kind of like my personal email account. Like I know the kinds of stuff that will be in here, and generally this is not particularly urgent, and I have it with me anyway. I have these two planners with me, so I would normally check them both. So you know, I would see if there's an appointment, basically. I don't worry about missing things, because I think maybe that's a concern about having multiple planners, is sometimes people think, oh, but like then you have to check like 5 different planners and you might miss things. So it depends on how you divide it, because if you divide it like me into work and personal, the personal stuff like generally is really not urgent. I mean, it might be like something like going to the cinema, which I'll be looking forward to. And I could put it in the work planner as well if I feel like it would be helpful, like kind of to see how the day is laid out. But because I'm checking both of these, and I think that probably if you're watching this video, you're into planning, so you know you will be familiar with the idea. You will relate to the idea that it's enjoyable checking your planner. So you know, like if you like planners, then obviously you want an excuse to check them. So having 2 planners it's nice. It like kind of, you know, gives me something happy to do. I like opening this and checking it, so I don't really feel like it's a problem having one thing in one planner and something else in another planner. It's not really an issue double booking, because they're there for different types of things. So because this is my main planner, I check this first and then I sort of coordinate around it. So it's like if we were trying to work out a time to go to the cinema, I would first look in this to see if there was anything going on that was preventing that, and then once I knew that was okay, then I could, you know, book it and put it in here, and possibly in here as well, but it doesn't really matter. And most of these things are not actually appointments. Most of them are just things that I want to do, like, you know, let's say I had labeled here, I mean, like, this is really sad, but you planner people will appreciate it. I had labeled in here when the Hobonichis went on sale. Or, okay, so like the sat covers, I really wanted to order a sat cover for my Hobonichi. So I had that labeled. I mean, in a way it's urgent, but it's not like urgent in the grand scheme of things. And this is like, so this is my fun planner basically. Or like go to Paper Chase. It's not like I have to go to Paper Chase. It would just be a nice bonus. So, or like exercise, like it's those types of things. So it's not like I'm scheduling lots of appointments in here and there's a danger of double booking them. Although, depending on how you organize your multiple planners, like it might be the sort of thing where you'd need to kind of copy between 2 planners so that you had them synced. I'll talk more about that in a minute, which I also think it could well be doable depending on sort of how your life is set up. So yeah, I feel like having these 2 planners kind of helps to streamline things. Like I know what to look for in here and I know what to look for in here. This one is kind of urgent. This one is like fun projects and less urgent things. I think if something is particularly urgent, then either I'll put it in here as well, or like I just check this, and so it's not an issue. So those are 2 of my planners. Then the third planner is the sort of communal joint planner that I mentioned earlier. That this is actually the concept that got me into the whole multiple planner universe in the first place. So originally this communal joint family planner was a Hobonichi cousin, and we decided that the Hobonichi was actually kind of wasted as a family planner because we weren't utilizing it. So the Hobonichi, like the reason that it works so well for me as a work planner is because it has the yearly overview, then it has the monthly view, then it has the weekly view, and then it has the daily view. And that works perfectly for me as a work planner because I have so many different things going on that it's useful to be able to sort of track them in those different ways and also have space for daily notes. Whereas for the home planner, what we wanted this for is, so things like, I've got this divided, so these are Lime Life inserts, and I'll do an update on this planner soon, so I won't go into this in great detail, but these inserts are fantastic for this purpose because they're divided into, I think it's 6 categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have our dogs, James, me, stuff to buy, visits as in like people who are going to, like deliveries and people who are coming to the flat, and then like stuff for us, and like, so things that we're doing together, like going to the cinema and other things like Jewish holiday times and things like that. And so basically those are the categories that it's useful for both of us to know about, and that's why it's nice having this home planner, because this is not just mine, this is mine and James's, and the dogs, although obviously they don't check it because they're not interested in planning. So things like my teaching schedule, I'm not actually teaching this year, but when I would, so normally I would be like kind of teaching from this time of the year onwards. And so James, like I mentioned, has market shifts. So in the olden days, before we had a communal planner, he might schedule a market shift on a day when I was at university, and then that means that there would be no one to look after the dogs. And then like we'd have to sort things out or, you know, kind of balance things elaborately, and it was always a headache. Whereas now, as long as we both remember to write in it, I put in my schedule, like when I'm going to be out, and then if he checks it, then he knows not to book something for that day, or if there's something going on that we both need to know about. So it kind of cuts down on that kind of mishap. Another thing that's useful is we put in things like, so like say when Tails and Panda have to have their flea medicine, or when one of them has a vet appointment, almost always Panda, by the way. So those are things that, like, if I just put that in my planner, if like say I just put that in my personal planner, then James wouldn't know about it, and I'd have to tell him, like, put this in your planner as well, because one of us is going to have to take Panda to the vet. Whereas if it's here, then we both check it, we both know that it's here, whoever makes the appointment, you know, like puts it in, and then it's there for both of us. We both check this. Again, they're not like hugely urgent things in here. This is kind of more like an extension of a sort of personal type planner, but it's like stuff that is related to both of us. So like, yeah, we could both put them in our individual respective planners, but it's easier just to have it in here, and it's something that we can check. Or another thing that we put in here is like shopping lists. So like if one of us needs something, we put it on here. This is just on the back of the dashboard. I think I might replace this with the new Happy Scrappy dashboard from the September kit, or page marker. And then it's just there, and whoever does like the shopping order knows to check here. So like, again, if I put this in my work planner or my personal planner, then like I would be able to get the things, but James wouldn't know about it. So it works really well for stuff like that. Something else that we put in is like so when they're holidays, like, so for example here, this was there's been a Jewish holiday, and so one of us had to do security duty at the synagogue yesterday, so that was in here. So whichever one of us checked it, because it could be either of us that would do it, then they would know that they had to, that's where one of us has to be then. Or like we had to get Panda's prescription renewed. All of that kind of stuff goes in here. Or like if there's someone is coming to the flat, like that's useful for both of us to know, so that we don't get surprises and like end up double booking things basically. Or like, yeah, so like I said, holiday times. These are just things that it's useful for both of us to know, and it really makes sense to have it here. So I think that this is another really good division. It's useful having this, and we both check it, and it kind of makes life a bit easier, because this is like anything that is to do with the flat or the dogs or both of us. And so like things like the cinema, we know that we're going to the cinema. Some of these things I do duplicate. So if we're going to the cinema, I might put that in here as well, because this one I take with me and this one is A5 and it stays at home. Like this is, we don't need to take this with us, it would be inconvenient. So this is kind of like a control panel, and then this is like a, you know, satellite, and yeah, like we don't do stuff that often, so I don't mind putting cinema in here as well, because then I'll have it with me. But this is kind of like more like, I guess, a sort of a reference for both of us, and we can put things in our respective personal planners if we want to. So the other thing that we have in here is things like we track Panda's weight, so whenever we take him to the vet and he gets weighed, we put that in here. And then we have recipes. And I think we might add some other things in here, like if relevant, if something else comes up that it seems like it would be useful for both of us to know about. There's some notes in here as well. So we're moving next week, not forever, but for this year, because I'm on research leave this year. So we're going to go stay in the country, which I'm really excited about, like getting out of the city for a while. So I've kind of like, you know, put a checklist, things that we need to remember to bring with us and things that we have to sort out before we go, because those are things that it's useful for both of us to know and that we can both reference. So those are the kinds of things that go in here. So yeah, this is like kind of my basic 3 planner system. Other ways of dividing planners that I've kind of contemplated and I'm not sure about, but I think might be interesting, are, so actually first I'll talk about some ways that I have tried and then have decided to kind of not to continue with, but common divisions that I've seen people use that I know work for a lot of people on YouTube. Like for example, having an exercise planner, one where you like just keep for exercise. We did this for a while. Actually, James and I had a joint one where we each had a section. We had a section each, and we would each mark off like when we had, you know, like exercised. And so he was putting in things like green juice, like because he was into making green juice, and like so like ticking off which days we'd made green juice on and stuff like that. And that also worked quite well. It was sort of like nice knowing that was where you went to put things. And he has kind of still been talking about keeping that going, but it kind of sort of like dropped off, as I think probably exercise related things often do. And I think that for me, I decided to put it into my personal planner, and that's what I do now. And the reason for that is that my like kind of exercise routine is really simple. It's basically just like either walking, which I don't bother recording, or a bike. And so I don't like have any massive gains. Like I just kind of want to do it because I feel like I should, but it's not like I want to achieve anything particular. So I just tick off when I've done it, and that goes in here. So like this is for the week, and this planner has the like Filofax pocket layout has sort of like 1 day, you know, kind of 1 day slots, and it has a blank one at the top. So I just put it in at the top. That's for the week, and I just tick off how many times I've done it, and that's literally it. So I don't really feel like I need a whole planner for that, and actually it's more efficient. This was something else that came out of One Book July, is it's really easy just putting it in here. This is like something personal. It's not like I have an elaborate regime. But somebody else might, and so if they do, then it might be useful to have that separate, because it could get messy. Like I could see if you had a lot of personal stuff going on, a lot of work stuff going on, and then you had this like big exercise regime, that it might be useful just to have it separate so that you could just check. If you wanted to know specifically about exercise, just go to that. Again, with the email analogy, it would be kind of like if you had an email address that you just wanted a very specific thing to go to. That's kind of how it seems to me. If you're doing like one particular project and you just wanted everything about that project to go to that email address. But like, so for me, I just felt like it wasn't necessary, but it's another common and you know, like sort of useful division to have. Another one is meal planning. So this is something else that we tried, and I'm kind of glad that I tried all of these, because sort of like now I think I've fine-tuned it and I know what works well for me, which obviously might not be the same as what works well for someone else. So yeah, meal planning, like again, I kind of felt like we were sort of getting a bit scattered, having all these different planners in different places. So the meal planning planner, which is now basically in here, had like a calendar where I was writing down what we were going to have every day, and it also had the recipes, which are now in here, and like new recipes to try, and like shopping ingredients. And that was kind of a pain because there was a logic to it. It was like everything food related went in that. So in a way that was quite comforting. But then it was in the kitchen, which sort of made sense because that was, you know, like where the recipes were going to be made. And so if we wanted to write down something that was missing, like we had to go in the kitchen. And it was sort of, it did work. It's not like it didn't work, but it was just another thing that it felt somehow like it works better just having it in here. But that's another, really, I think, common division, and I can see, again, the logic of it, because you just have sort of like one thing, that's your dedicated planner for that, everything to do with that goes in there. Another one is pets. So I actually made a planner for our pets as well, Tails and Panda, and I've kept it, but it's turned into just a storage binder. So it's a place to keep everything to do, like their vaccination records and like, you know, vet bills and things that we have to keep to do with them. They're like insurance details. But the only thing that I was sort of actively using it for was, for a while we were tracking their meals, but that just got to be too cumbersome, and we've got a system down pretty like that works well. So it's like there's only so much tracking that you can do in a day. And so the only thing that we were actually recording in the planner was Panda's weight tracking, and that just went in here. So that meant one less planner to have to check, and it's just a reference binder. So I think that that's like maybe a compromise between having too many different planners on the go and not having anywhere to keep things, I guess, is that it's like I like keeping reference stuff that I would be keeping anyway in a nice planner, so that like I enjoy going to look at it when I need to, but I don't actually have to maintain it. So that's kind of how it worked out for me, but I could see, like, again, for somebody it might be useful keeping all of your sort of pet related tracking in that. So I think, so another division which I have seen quite often, seems to be a common division that I've been trying to figure out if it could work for me, and I'm not sure that it can, but I sort of like the idea of it, is to have a division between your home planner or planners and your on the go planner. And the reason for that obviously is just not having to schlep around so much stuff in your bag. So I have a perennial problem. Even when I had like one tiny pocket-sized planner, I still had a problem. Like I had tons of stuff in my bag because I've often had like library books, and I have like teaching materials. And then if I have a bottle of water and lunch, it just like, and I have this huge rucksack, which see, that's like full of books at the moment that I have to take back. And then I also have another bag, and that's like a different story, is like trying to find the right bag. But so I kind of, you know, I'm sort of eternally trying to streamline and not carry around too much junk. And so it's quite tempting, like if this is my work planner and I carry this in whenever I go to university, to think like this is A5. It's not like, because I'm used to carrying a lot of stuff, it's not like this is massively heavy, but it's still, it would be nice if I could just go in carrying something like this that, you know, would hardly be noticed. And the problem with that for me is that I feel like for my particular job, because I have a lot of things that I track here, like say students' marks during the year, projects that I'm going to be doing, lists of potential students, lists of like courses that are running in the department, and then notes on like if I've met with the research advisor, notes on like how to go about a grant application or something. And often these are things that I need to reference both at home and at university. So if I meet with a colleague and I took some notes on something, then I'm like, and I only had my on the go planner with me, I'd be like, oh, all of that stuff is at home. I'll have to tell you when I go home, which would be annoying. So like I could take notes in, like say I had like something like pocket sized or like Hobonichi weeks or something, which would be great because it would be so light, and it would be really tempting just to writing my teaching schedule and appointments in it, and like that's it, and that's all I take with me when I go out. I think that would work if I had the sort of job where I could just go in, like be at work and then go home, or like leave a planner at work maybe. Like if I had a big planner at work and I could leave it at work and then go home and just have one planner that I, you know, kind of took with me all the time in my bag that was small. But because, like I said, my work is sort of it's like halfway between at the institution and at home. I kind of need this in both places, and I use it so much like that I know that I would be frustrated if I've been thinking about this for the past few weeks, because I like the idea of it. If I had to leave this at home, there would be so much that I couldn't put in it when I was out, that either I'd be constantly copying stuff over, which would be stupid, that would be a waste of time, and that would kind of defeat the point of having, planners to make your life easier. Or I would have some stuff in my on-the-go planner and some stuff in here, and I can't think of a logical division. So like if I had my research projects that I was doing when I was at home, say, in here, and like all of my notes from meetings and stuff, and my teaching schedule in the on-the-go planner, then if I was making notes for a project at home and I went into the library because I needed some books for it, I wouldn't have them, or I'd have to copy them over. So I kind of feel like as it is that wouldn't work for me. I could see, like, if you worked at home, then you could definitely just leave your work planner at home. And because I'm going to be on research leave for the next year, I will be able to do that. I won't need to take this with me anywhere because I'm not really going to be going anywhere work related, for the most part. So I will be able to leave this at home, and then I'll just take my pocket planner, whatever it is, my on-the-go planner with me. And if some work related idea comes to me while I'm out, I can just jot it down and then copy it into this. Like, that's fine if it's only, a one-off, but on a daily basis, I don't think it would work for me. At least I haven't figured out a way to make it work, even though the idea is tempting. So if you worked at home, you could leave your work stuff at home, and then you could just take something like this out when you wanted to go, like, to the shop or whatever. And I think that is the idea of it, and I'm going to be doing something more like that over the course of this next year, which I'm very excited about because my bag will be light. Or alternatively, like I said, if you had a work planner that you just kept at work, you could have your like kind of on-the-go planner that you took back and forth with you everywhere that wouldn't need to have work stuff in it, if you had the kind of job where you could just leave it at work. So yeah, I think that there are various different things that would work for different people, and I guess the main issue, if you have different planners, that if you're sort of clear about what each one is for, and there might be a certain amount of overlap, but as long as the sort of net balance kind of works for you, if you like it for whatever reason, either because your brain likes to divide things the way mine does, like work, home, personal, or because you've got too much to put in one planner and you kind of need to separate it out some way, or because you have a bigger planner that you don't want to carry around with you, then it can be really useful having multiple planners. And I don't think that I would go back now just to having one planner, because I think it works much better this way. I can pretty much say that I definitely, I can't see myself going back. I think, the only thing is that you don't want to do too much copying. So whichever way you have it set up, you just sort of want to make sure that the things are relatively kind of self-sufficient, so that you don't have to keep copying things over. I think that's not really the idea of it. But if you have very minimal, the way it works for me, there's very, very little duplication. And each one has its job, and I, check them all regularly, and so that's not an issue. But then, for example, James and I were discussing this, and so James has an Etsy business. That's his main business, is selling stuff that he makes online, and he said that for him, he would kind of feel overwhelming having to check in different places. So he likes the idea of putting everything in one planner, and I think for him definitely he can do that, because the main thing that he needs to check are which orders he sent out, what he has to send out. Hello, Tails. That's that's Tails' foot. So yeah, he likes just knowing that everything is all in one place. And I could understand feeling like that as well if I had, a different kind of job that might be easier. So for example, another common division. Sorry, I know this video is really rambling and chatty, but hopefully, that's Tails drinking water, by the way. I had to move my setup from the normal one because there was for some reason uncharacteristically blinding light in the living room, so I'm on the floor, and yeah, this is Tails' domain. So sorry about that. But another common division is, are you going back that way? Okay, bye. So something that I've seen quite a lot of people have is they have a separate YouTube planner. And so I kind of thought about that, and I think again that for me that would be kind of like a separate exercise planner, in that like for me it's not that complicated, because for me YouTube is just like it's fun, it's like planners in general, it's my hobby and I enjoy it, so it's something that I do in my free time, and it's not something that I really need to devote. I could have a planner for it, but it fits well enough in this, so I don't really feel like I need one, but somebody else might feel like there's enough going on in the YouTube world that even if it's not their job or their main job, that they want to have a separate planner for it. Another one is gratitude. So for a long time I had a separate gratitude notebook. Last year and for the first part of this year I had it in a Flex, and then again for One Book July I streamlined it and put it in this, and I'm thinking possibly maybe about taking it out again, depending on what I use, if I keep using this for my personal planner or not. So I think that there is something to be said for having, for one thing, it's an excuse to have another planner or notebook, which is great. And also it's kind of like a separate thing. It's not really planning. So there's another issue, planning versus tracking. So like some people like to have planning separate from tracking. So like things that have already happened would go in one place, and things that you're expecting to happen would go in another place. I don't mind having those together. I don't actually do that much tracking. There's some things that I keep track of, in things like exercise, and there are a few other things, and it's fine for me having it all in here, and so gratitude is kind of like borderline, where I could easily see it being a separate book, but if it fits in here, then it's like I kind of like consolidating as much as possible so that I have very few places to look, but it could easily go either way. So yeah, I think like YouTube and gratitude and like all of those things, they're definitely things where there's room to have a separate book for them. And it kind of depends on whether or not you like consolidating as much as possible so that you're sort of looking at everything in as few places as possible, or whether you like to have different books for different things. And that's it's really like all just personal choice, like everything about planning. I think there's no one way that works for everybody. So it's good to experiment and find out what works best for you. And that might change over time as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this sort of like long rambling musing about multiple planners. It's just a topic that I think is interesting, and I hope that you have as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll be back again soon. Bye.